anunciar la presentación de Shernon Osepa, que es el gerente de asuntos regionales de Internet Society para Latinoamérica y Caribe, y que previamente se ha desempeñado en un puesto similar en ICANN. El tema que tratará es el ecosistema de Internet y por supuesto también podrá énfasis en el rol de Internet Society. La charla va a ser en inglés, pero él puede recibir luego preguntas en español. Luego tendremos la presentación de Brooke Schofield, que trabaja en desarrollo de proyectos en Terena, y en particular el tema a tratar es EduGain y los desafíos de la interfederación. Las dos charlas van a ser, no tenemos demasiado tiempo, por lo tanto pediría que dejemos las preguntas para finalizar al finalizar las dos charlas. Los dejo ahora con Shernon.
Muchas gracias por su introducción. A pesar que yo me defiendo en español, prefiero hablar con ustedes hoy en inglés, porque hay muchas terminologías que estamos utilizando y básicamente todas están en inglés, y por eso prefiero hablarles en inglés. The theme for today is ISOC and the Internet ecosystem. When we're talking about the Internet, there are a lot of organizations dealing with the development of the Internet. There is not such thing like a given organization which has like a monopoly over all the details, developments going on. And the ecosystem is talking or is dealing with this. So all the organizations dealing with the Internet. My name is Shernon Osepa, and I'm from Curacao. That's a very beautiful island in the Caribbean. I think that is one of the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean, although I'm saying it myself. Y pienso que Curazao, soy de Curazao, es una isla hermosa en el Caribe, es una de las islas más bellas en el Caribe, a pesar que estoy diciendo esto yo mismo. Okay, first I would like to focus a bit on Internet Society, ISOC. What is Internet Society? What are we doing? Then I'll be focusing a bit on what we call the Internet operating layers. Nowadays, if you ask someone what is the Internet, most people would answer Facebook. But is that the Internet? So I'll be focusing a bit on the Internet operating layers in order for us to understand when we are talking about the Internet, what are we referring to. And of course, the Internet ecosystem, all the players giving their contribution to the development of the Internet. And at the end, there will be possibility to ask questions as well. Y siéntese libre de hacer sus preguntas en español también, sin ningún problema. Internet Society was founded in 1992 by key Internet pioneers. We are referring here to people like Dr. Vint Cerf. You may have heard of Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. They are considered the fathers of the Internet. I think nowadays, maybe grandfathers, because they have been called father for such a long time. So por ahora, más como abuelo, pienso. So in 1992, these people came together and they were discussing how can we continue to develop the Internet. So, and they did form Internet Society. Internet Society is a global, not-for-profit organization. We have more than 110 what we call organizational members. So I don't want to mention names here, but big organizations out there, they are members of Internet Society. They believe in what we are doing, so that's why they become Internet Society's members. We have more than 60,000 what we call individual members as well. And we do have also what we call local chapters, more than 90 local chapters. So if in a given country there are people who are very passionate about the internet, they can form what we call a chapter, a local chapter. We do have offices all over the world. The main office that's in the USA, near Washington, and we do have offices in Africa, in Asia, Europe, and our regional bureau for Latin America and the Caribbean, that's in Uruguay, Montevideo. Basically, what ISOC is focusing on is to keep the internet open as we know it nowadays. There has been some discussions going on what should happen with the internet. Some countries they would like to see a more what they call a closed internet in a given environment. We don't believe in those kind of concepts. We think the internet should remain open as we have been using it nowadays. And Internet Society is focusing on three main areas. The first area is what we call internet-related technical standards. There are a lot of standards out there that are not really related to the internet, but Internet Society is focusing on internet-related standards. And we do these through the IATF, Internet Engineering Task Force, of which Internet Society is the organizational home. So we do have copyrights over all these internet standards as well, like IPv6, IPv4, ASN, and so on. But these are widely available to the world. So it's not something that we keep for ourselves. We do share them with the wider community as well. What made Internet Society so unique? Internet Society has been there for 20 years, and as you may know, 20 years in technologies, then technology is like decades. It's more, if you compare 20 years in technology, it's like a century in other kind of businesses. So we have been there for such a long time, and not only being there, we have been contributing to all these international fora as well. And we do have access to international network of experts. So if we don't have that particular expertise in-house, we always have contacts to experts in other organizations as well. So I'm going to rush a bit through this because I have 15 minutes and my friend 15 minutes as well, so I'm going to rush a bit through this. When we're talking about the internet, the first thing that we need to have is a telecommunication infrastructure. So be it wired, wireless, satellite communication, mobile, that's not important. We need to have a telecommunication infrastructure. And once we have this in place, then we move to the next level, to what we call the DNS level, domain name system, and which is based on the TCP protocol. Basically, you may find people who are experts, let's say, on telecommunication infrastructure, and they are not really experts on the domain name system or the TCP and those kind of things. That's not important because these three areas, although they are linked with each other, we are talking about different expertise. Once you have a telecommunication infrastructure in place, then we move to the next level, the DNS level, on which the internet is based. And once the internet is functioning, then we will move to the content and application layer, basically the way that we are using the internet on a daily basis. And here you will find our good friends utilizing Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Google, all these kind of things. So this slide is very important for us to know what we're talking about, because sometimes some people are referring to DNS, domain name system, which translates, let's say, names into IP addresses, but they make strange links that are not really, that don't really exist. So it's very important for us to keep this in mind. Okay, I'll be focusing now on the internet ecosystem. As I did say before in my introduction, there are a lot of organizations out there giving their contribution to the development of the internet. You may have heard of ICANN, ITU, Internet Society, LACNIC. What is the role of all these organizations? And where do they fit, basically? If we start just right, we have we have a nice pie here, and it is divided in a few sections. If we start with the blue one, naming and addressing, then I'll be focusing later on more detail what they are. We have local, national, regional, and global policy development. We have education and capacity building. I think I'll be focusing more on that, given that we have a lot of universities here. And of course, we do have users, shared global services, operations, open standards developments. Education and capacity building. We see we do have governments that are focusing, or that are supposed to be focusing on education and capacity building of their citizens. We are not sure that that's always the case, but in any event, that should be the case. And governments are quite important. And ISOC, Internet Society, does work very closely with governments, because whether we like them or not, governments are elected in a given country, and they are the ones who are developing all these policies for the citizens. So that's why we need to work with them. If we move further, we see Internet Society there. As I did mention before, we have the chapters, we have individual members, we have organizational members. Remember, this session we are focusing on education and capacity building. So governments could be focusing on education and capacity building in their particular country. Internet Society on a global level is focusing on capacity building and education. We have multilateral institutions like OECD, ITU, and others who are focusing on capacity building as well. In the case of the ITU, it's more on telecommunication infrastructure. And we have what we call the Internet Community Organizations and Businesses, RIRs. These are the regional internet registries, LACNIC, ARIN, and so on. We have regional and national network operators, and so on. And universities and academic institutions. I think I should not mention or focus much on this, because all of us understand that when it comes to capacity building and education, we need to, this is addressed at universities, because at universities, we do have the bright minds who are giving a contribution to the development of this world. Okay, local, national, regional, and global policy development. I'm not going to, given the time constraint, I'm not going to mention all of these. But the thing is that you could see that, remember, we do have governments. They are responsible for policy development in a particular country. But if we move to a region, then we will find, let's say, regional organizations that are focusing on policy development as well. In our Latin America region, CITEL is one of them. If we just take a look at the Caribbean, for example, we see CTU, Caribbean Telecommunication Union, and so on. Multilateral institutions, as I did mention before, ITU, UNESCO, WIPO, we see Internet Society there again, and other policy discussion fora focusing on local, national, regional, and global policy development. We do have what we call the IGF, Internet Governance Forum. This year it will be held in Argentina, in Cordoba. So these are all institutions or fora focusing on development of the internet. Naming and addressing. This is very important because basically we as human beings, we are using the internet on a daily basis. For example, if I would say, for example, Brooke, that's the name of my good friend here, but computer systems don't really understand name. Brooke, although it's a nice name, but it doesn't say anything for a computer system. So they utilize what we call, computer systems utilize what we call IP addresses. They communicate with each other through IP addresses. So you have ICANN there, and I used to work for them as the rep for the Caribbean as well. The only thing, although ICANN is a very important organization, the only thing that they are doing is to make sure that all these names that we are trying to reach on the internet, that when you type, for example, brook.com, you will reach to brook.com and not eve.com, for example. So that is what ICANN is doing, coordinating what we call the domain name system. So that is matching all these IP addresses to names in order for the internet to function. And we do have what we call the regional internet registries. They get the pool of IP addresses, be it IPv6 or IP, or in this particular case, only IPv6 because IPv4 is fully allocated. So on the highest level, on the IANA level, IANA/ICANN level, there are no more IPv4 addresses left. But on a regional level, for example, at ARIN, LACNIC, still they do have. So once these regional internet registries, and we have 5 in the world, for example, in our region, we do have LACNIC for Latin America and part of the Caribbean, mostly non-English speaking Caribbean. They are member of LACNIC. We do have ARIN as well, that's the other part of the Caribbean. And we do have RIPE, NCC, Europe, AFRINIC in Africa, and APNIC in Asia Pacific region. So these organizations, they get the IP addresses from IANA/ICANN, and they distribute them to their members. GTLDs, these are generic top-level domain names. For example, .com, .org, .int, all these are generic top-level domain names. But we do have what we call country codes domain names as well. In the case of Colombia, that's .co, Jamaica, JM, the Netherlands, .nl, and so on. Open standard development. This is very important as well. You do have organizations. Basically, there are 2 main group of organizations dealing with standards. The first group, they are focusing on non-internet related standards. And these could be all kind of standards. For example, this mic, how it should be constructed. It should have a given standard. So there are organizations focusing on how we are going to construct this mic. Your light bulbs, for example, there are organizations focusing how they should be constructed. But we are not focusing on those right now. In addition to all these other standards, we do have what we call internet-related standards as well. And these are being done through the IATF, Internet Engineering Task Force, of which Internet Society is the organization, is the organizational home. Okay, we do have organizations focusing on shared global services and operations. For example, you do have 13 organizations out there that are managing all these root servers in the world. So it's not that you have 13 root servers in the world. You have 13 organizations that are managing all these root servers. And at root servers, you find on the highest level the information that should be publicized on the internet. Internet exchange points, GTLDs I mentioned already, and so on. Users, this is very important. I mean, if we have all these organizations doing what they are doing and you don't have users, you don't have anything. So users are quite important as well, and users could be individual people just like you and me, businesses, governments, organizations, and so on. So this is in a nutshell basically the internet ecosystem. I'm sure you cannot read it because even myself with my 20/20 vision cannot read it, so you cannot read it neither. So basically this is what I have for you today. So if there are questions, I will be answering them later. Thank you.